So every summer, without fail, a report emerges suggesting that Harry hopes for an invitation to Sandringham. And in a report, supposedly, a friend of Harry is reported to have told a Sunday newspaper that he would love family time with his father. And the source says that he would welcome the chance to bring Meghan and the children to meet his father. And the implication is the same, that Harry is waiting, Harry is hoping, Harry is looking forward to Britain with a yearning that only a royal invitation can satisfy. It has not happened yet. It will not happen this summer either. And the story will run again next summer. Now, let us examine what this recurring narrative...
So every single year, like clockwork, a very specific kind of story begins to circulate. It is almost seasonal at this point. A report appears claiming that Prince Harry is hoping for an invitation to Sandringham, that he is longing for family time, that he is waiting patiently for the call that will somehow unlock everything. And every year the framing is identical. Harry is positioned as the one waiting. Harry is positioned as the one hoping. Harry is positioned as the one needing permission. Now let's pause and really examine what that framing is doing, because it is not accidental. What it does is strip him of agency. It paints him as passive. It paints him as dependent. It suggests that his ability to see his own family, to return to his own country, is entirely in the hands of someone else. And that is where the problem begins. Because when you actually look at the documented reality, the story does not hold up. We know that when King Charles III received his cancer diagnosis, Harry got on a plane and flew to the UK. He showed up. He made the effort. And what happened? A brief meeting, around 30 minutes. And then the king departed for Sandringham. That does not look like someone refusing contact. That does not look like someone waiting around for an invitation. That looks like someone who is willing to show up, even under difficult circumstances. We also know that Harry has returned to the UK multiple times for legal proceedings. Multiple trips. Multiple opportunities. And yet, there has been no widely reported extended family time, no Sandringham stays, no summer invitations materialising in the way these stories keep suggesting. So the question becomes very simple. If he is already travelling to the UK, if he is already physically present, why would an invitation be the missing piece? Why would he be sitting somewhere waiting for permission when he is clearly capable of getting on a plane and going? This is where the narrative starts to unravel. Because the idea that everything hinges on a royal invitation is not just simplistic, it is misleading. It ignores the actual issue at the centre of all of this, which is security. And that is not speculation. That is documented, legal, ongoing. Harry's legal team has consistently made it clear that the issue is about his ability to access appropriate security when he is in the UK. Not just for himself, but for Meghan Markle and their children. This is not about convenience. This is about safety. And here is the part that often gets quietly left out of these reports. He has offered to pay for that security himself, that the solution lies with the king. But if you frame it correctly as a legal and security issue, then it becomes clear that the situation is far more complex and not something that can be solved with a simple invitation. That is the distinction people need to understand. Now, let's talk about the source of these stories. Every year we hear about a friend, a close friend, a source, someone familiar with the situation, and yet that person is never named. There is no accountability. There is no verification. And that matters. Because in any other context, if you were presented with a claim based entirely on an unnamed source, you would question it. You would ask who is saying this. You would ask how they know. You would ask why they are not willing to put their name to it. But when it comes to these royal stories, that basic level of scrutiny often disappears. And that is how these narratives continue to recycle themselves. Because they are not being treated as claims, they are being treated as facts, even though they are built on foundations that cannot be confirmed. Now look at the timing. Late March. Weekend coverage. A familiar story resurfacing just as it always does. This is not coincidence. This is content strategy. There is always a need to fill space. There is always a need to generate clicks, to drive engagement, to keep certain names in circulation. And the Sussexes, whether people like it or not, generate attention. So these stories become part of a cycle, a predictable, repeatable cycle. And once you recognize that, you start to see them differently, not as breaking news, but as recurring narratives designed to maintain a particular framing. Meanwhile, what is actually happening in real life tells a completely different story. Harry is continuing his work on the global stage. He is speaking at international forums. He is preparing for upcoming engagements. There is forward movement. There is purpose. There is momentum. And Meghan is doing the same, building her brand, developing new ideas, expanding her reach, creating something that exists beyond the traditional structures they once operated within. Their children are growing up in a different environment, one that prioritizes normalcy, privacy, and stability. That is the reality. Not a man sitting somewhere waiting for an invitation that may or may not come. Not a family defined by whether they are included in a summer gathering. But individuals who have built lives that operate independently of that system. And that is why this narrative feels so outdated, because it is trying to pull them back into a framework that they have already moved beyond. It is trying to define them by something they no longer rely on, and it does not quite work anymore, because the facts keep contradicting it, the actions keep contradicting it, the reality keeps contradicting it. So when you see these stories appear, it is worth asking a few simple questions. Who is saying this? What evidence supports it? And does it align with what we already know to be true? Because once you start asking those questions, the narrative loses its power. It becomes what it actually is, a story, repeated often enough to feel familiar, but not necessarily grounded in reality. And that is why it is important to step back and look at the bigger picture. Because the bigger picture shows two people who are not waiting. They are moving, they are building, they are evolving, on their own terms. And no annual headline about a summer invitation is going to change that.